Antonio Pisano,
Sí.
Lori Allen, Michael Powell, Violeta Morgan,
She's still.
is absent. John White, they're over here, and Jacqueline Leyland.
We do have a quorum. Okay, pledge of allegiance. Okay. Take your kidney, please.
I feel like it's always me when I'm here. Right at it. Yeah, sure. Right hand over your heart, right your hand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, Jackie, student report.
So we finished up our girls basketball game and our boys basketball team strong as their last game on the 2004. Those are senior nights, so it went pretty well. We had a 10-11 for the girls and a goal for the boys. We also had a successful pregnancy where we had themes such as dress as your younger self, dress as your type, or wear a jersey, wear pink on Wednesdays, or college year Thursdays, and dress as your favorite teacher on Friday. We also had our Black History Month lunch event in collaboration with BSU last week, and overall it was very successful. And there were like performances, activities such as tote bag decorating, face painting, commission, giveaways, and applause. After the event that BSU has is our Lunar New Year celebration, which is this Thursday in collaboration with Asian Culture Club, and in March we have our Women's History lunch event where different clubs are going to come out and participate, or women-owned businesses, which is pretty cool. And most exciting, we do have our Unity Spirit Week coming up, where we have our pep rally on Monday, March 16th, and then our block party will be on Friday, which is instead of us having a dance, it will be called a block party. So it'll be like a little celebration, but we do have a lot going on that day. It's gonna be fun. And then our pep rally theme is Teen Beach Movies, and our community is embracing culture. So that's like our theme. We have like events going on each day. So like we have our multicultural fair, fashion show, talent show, and then Friday we have like embracing spirits, like your school spirits, and you just wear it really cool. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. All right, UTLA, Erica. All right.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Hello.
Hi.
My name is Jenna Weisenberg.
Don't be afraid of the mic.
Hello. My name is Jenna Weisenberg. I'm the UTLA chapter secretary. I'm here for Matt DeFranzo today to give you a quick update on UTLA. We are currently set to meet with the administration on March 3rd. We are working on proposals to facilitate a timely conclusion for the collective bargaining agreement. We believe the faculty deserve to be paid what they are worth. We are a California distinguished school thanks to our staff. We have seen continued growth in state test scores thanks to our staff. And our students are matriculating to the most prestigious universities thanks to our staff. Additionally, UTLA election cycles will begin mid-March. We have UTLA officer positions available. We also have some out of the classroom positions available. The deans as well as the 12th grade GLA position, the sped coach, as well as the math coach position. Additionally, we have 7 different department chair positions available: math department, science, language other than English, social science, visual and performing arts, counseling, and special education. UTLA is also still in pursuit of academic rigor and student accountability. And we also wanted to inform you that there has been some confusion with the new attendance verification system. And that is all.
Thank you. Okay, TU, Chris.
Good afternoon. My name is Tris Carpenter. I am from California Labor Strategies on behalf of the Classified Employee Union. I just have two things to talk about today. One was we are continuing collective bargaining negotiations. Unfortunately, I fell sick last week and had to cancel. But I'm hopeful that we'll get in a couple of dates in March and try to move forward from that. The other thing that I'd like to point out, apparently on today's agenda, is the school safety plan. I'm interested to hear what is in this plan, actually. CEU wasn't notified about this, and this is maybe a good opportunity to point out that having a classified member on a committee doesn't necessarily fulfill the requirements that unions are notified about the certain activities and certain planning. There's going to be, as I was reading through this, I was noticing there was an awful lot of reliance on members from CEU, and I think it would have been helpful to have CEU's input into this. So I'm interested in hearing about this, and if there is something that I do think will weigh in on, I'll make sure that we do that for the future. However, we'd like to be included beforehand. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, information item. Overnight trips, Mr. Bennett.
So we have a Calabosa state competition. I believe we have 17 students that are qualified for the state competition. And I think we have a couple of them and Ms. Epstein, who would like to speak to them. It's a health occupations student organization.
Where will the presentation be? Over here?
While you're doing that, can you just tell us oh, there we go.
Here we go. Okay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sergi Segovia, and I'm president of Calabosa. Good afternoon, my name is Isabel, and I'm the vice president. And we're just going to give you a little information about what Calabosa is, which is otherwise known as the Future Health Professionals. So what is Calabosa? Calabosa is a national student-led organization run by and for students interested in pursuing careers in the health professions. And this picture just shows the Calabosa class of this year. So for our current status, there are 19 students who completed the exam for topic physiology and medical law and ethics competition, which are just two of the many exams that are available for us to take. 17 out of 19 of the students passed the exam and can proceed on to the state competition. We're planning on taking 19 students to the Calabosa State Leadership Competition from March 26th to the 28th in Ontario to participate in round 2 of the competition, which includes hands-on activities to gain more experience in healthcare and also make real-world connections with our healthcare professionals. So here are some benefits of participating in Calabosa because we wanted to tell you how it benefits the members. So first, we do get valuable guest speakers. For example, last year, I actually did go to a Calusa competition and we were able to get talked to by doctors, nurses, and other health professionals. We're able to get connections with colleges and other medical professionals, learn about medical related topics. Pathophysiology and medical non-ethics are some of the few that we're able to choose from. We're able to meet other like-minded students in other pre-med classes at the school and those who attend other schools who want to pursue a health career. And we also engage in hands-on activities in the classroom and at competitions such as suturing, CPR, and first aid. Without this, students also have the opportunity to improve like oral presentation skills and leadership skills. We have opportunities to get scholarships, internships, and mentorships, which overall help us in our future and trying to decide what we want to do. We have unique benefits, including volunteer opportunities where we can help our community. And Calusa also offers 55 competitive and recognition events to choose from. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, on the LCAP, Wendy. No.
Hi, good afternoon. This is, I would say, you can hear me, I don't, you know this. Huh? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay, so this is the 4th year that the state requires us to do what's called an LCAP mid-cycle report. And basically it's to provide the board with an update of what our estimated actual expenditures have been in each of the actions of the LCAP and what our metrics have looked at like at each of the actions. That's not the, yeah, that's not it either. That's not it. No. There we go. Okay, next slide, please. So, no, next slide. Not, okay, well, I'm just gonna move on. Yeah, it's okay, I'll take care of it. Okay, so, first I wanna remind you that all of this is to ensure transparency to our parents and community members. And the first page is just the budget overview that was approved back in June of 2025. Of course, as you all know, we expect a certain amount of money, we plan based on that, but things come up, as they say. You know, just in the normal course of business and extraordinary things. So in terms of our proposed versus estimated actual expenditures, we anticipated last year approximately 47.79 million in state LCAP funds to run the school. Now, I'm not talking about federal grants or any other federal-based grants. And in fact, in our second interim, which our CBO is going to present today, we're coming in more at 48 million. Of that amount, our LCFF supplemental and concentration funds, which is driven by our unduplicated student count, was anticipated to be 13.14 million, and in fact is a little bit more, over $1 million. So that's our estimated actual expenditures at this time. Could you go to the next slide? So that's, you know, overview of the state funds. And just so you know, we're not required by law at this point to give you an update on our federal fund spending, but that's not nearly as much as our state grants. So next slide, please. Just looking at it from a goal point of view, we have 3 goals. We've had the same 3 goals for several years. The goal description is there along with bullet points of the general goal elements. And this is a breakdown of how we're spending that money by goal. And you'll see our goal 1, which is the heart of our academic efforts, is the largest goal in terms of money and in terms of number of actions. Nothing new, it's been like that for a while. We're also supposed to update you on our metrics. Now, just so you know, in the past, I've shared with you this gargantuan spreadsheet of metrics over the course of time, and it's too much. So I figured we're being judged, our most important metrics that are driving our performance are in our dashboard. Could you do the next slide, please? And so why not put basically our beautiful dashboard up here? So, and I did some breakdown where you could see, but our trends are really positive, because keep in mind, the color on the dashboard is driven not just by the absolute value of the performance for the previous year, but in comparison to the year before that. So we are trending very well on our major metrics, and on the next page, and the next slide, are our other two major metrics on the dashboard. The dashboard, the remainder of the dashboard is what you call local indicators, so there's no hard metrics. But I just wanted to share with you in terms of trends. This is what I shared with you when we were reviewing the SARC back in December. You've seen these numbers before. You've seen them from me. You've seen them from Ari Bennett. You've probably seen them from Isaac Alatorre and Miss Cindy. So that's the other part of the mid-cycle report that we have to update you on. And our metrics are looking good. We're trending in a positive direction. And sometimes a positive direction for some of our metrics is for the numbers to go down. So that's what's going on. Any questions?
That's your report.
That's it, baby.
Repairs began last week and are expected to be completed this week in preparation for the new retesting. Thank you.
Okay, all right, John, what do we do with the water? You just down the drain? What are the
I'm
plans?
not drinking it,
No, I know that.
Yeah, it gets treated.
When you empty.
With
The
water.
water for the emergency tank.
You got the door guy. The pipe from here to over the hill to your house. Step down, thank you. This is my.
Who we got next?
Rob, this advisory.
We'll save it for you next time.
We'll be in the coffee.
I was talking about the water that goes out the drain. Yeah, that can go for the field and area.
I'm too green, I'm sorry, it's just that. Okay. We met last Wednesday, the finance committee. We have the department chairs, most of them coming in here. The facilities, Mr. DeFronso reiterated what we spoke before, but especially we are looking at the trash containers that are being reduced to avoid dumping, because the bags are incomplete. So instead of wasting it too much, then they are going to reduce the amount of the containers and use few ones so the bags can be completed and not wasted. And there's also, we talk about the concern that we have been brought up many times about the Birmingham Way and the construction that is being on across the street. For CNI, some of the person wasn't there, but she emailed me, and there are discussions of effectiveness of PDs and brainstorming ideas for PDs to align with teachers, departments, needs, and interests. The team decided to continue to brainstorm and survey staff members to get feedback before the next CNI meeting. We also heard some discussions about the HR that is going to be later on probably explain the purpose of the committee, what is considered under their preview. Student services, they are still talking about the attendance. The attendance is going to be looked more carefully. They are it's gonna be based on data that's gonna be taking place every month. And they're also looking at the low grades for people who are absent chronically, and that is also a reflection of their low grades. Oh, and then we spoke about the attendance during the day that there was the walkout. There was about 800 students that did not show up. And in terms of the impact that we have with the ATA, it was not an emergency, it was not an intended situation, and that means that nothing is going to be reversed. And it's just going to be something that does not have to do anything with any kind of reimbursement. The attendance summary, the target of attendance is about 94 attendance, and now, as you know, we on Fridays we are having extra items, edible like pizzas, and this Friday is going to be at Pizza Hut or something like that to make the kids come and not only have lunch but be here on time. And then we also talk about the fiscal policies and procedures that Christine just explained about it. And in terms of the finance report, there were discussions about certificated extra hours for teachers, the extra hours that are, regarding planning, trainings, or doing some work during the break time. But overall, between July to December 2024 and 2025, this year was less than last year. And that was it. Any questions? Thank you.
Does that take care of curriculum instruction as well?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay. We're done with curriculum. All right. You want to do a safe school plan?
Yeah, so we're gonna do the safe school plan. Our process has been pretty much the same in safe school plan, except we are always looking to add more voices to the table to ensure we're not missing any gaps, and continually working to make our school safer every year. Mr. Elmore does a great job with that. Mr. Elmore?
Good afternoon, Williams. Yes, sir.
I have one quick question. Just because the safety plan, it's just an update, right? So we had.
It's updated every year, yes.
Okay, so it's not like a new thing that's been
No.
brought.
No, it's updated every year.
Because the gentleman was asking about it.
Yeah.
Why?
Of course. And we did, toward the end of last year, we did have Eddie Garcia, I think, who was a designee from CEU come. He did decline the last meeting, but what we'll do going forward is we'll make sure that we send an invite to Mr. Carpenter as well. So he's fully informed, and we can ensure that we have that CEU representation. So we'll do that. Thank you. All right. Is there a clicker? Oh. Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you again, board members, for allowing me to present the safe school plan. Some of this is information that you've heard in the past. As was mentioned earlier, this is an update. We update the safe school plan every year. By Education Code 3281, we are required, every public school and charter school, public school is required to submit a safe school plan. Three primary components: the self-assessment. We look at ourselves, what's going on in our school, what are some things that we can improve, what are some issues. We look at our emergency procedures. Do we have plans in place? We look at our recovery procedures if there is an incident or a major catastrophe, and students and staff need support. What is our plan for that? Do we have a team prepared to tackle that? Go ahead and click. This is our safe school team, comprised of several members. You can go ahead and click. Self-assessment. Essentially, some of the things that we look at when we self-assess, we look at the assessment of school crime. I will say the biggest crime that's happening on campus is the marijuana, the vaping that's happening in the bathroom. That's our biggest crime per se. Our numbers are looking better in that regard. I'll share that with you in a second. the other biggest thing is fighting, which is why these things are in our safe school plan as goals as well to reduce that. We look at child abuse reporting procedures. Teachers need to go through a training at the beginning of the year to make sure that they understand the procedures, disaster procedures to allow public agencies to utilize our facilities. We do have that also written in the safe school plan. There's an abbreviated version that I put in there. That's essentially how we handle it here on our end, but it's also in the safe school plan is the City of Los Angeles Emergency Operations Plan. That's the other thing that we follow. Parent community involvement, student expulsion procedures, suspensions procedures. Mr. Bennett stole my thunder. I was going to brag about the 40 suspensions, which is a reduction. To date, it's a 58% reduction in the suspensions that we had last year. So thank you to the deans for that and finding those alternatives to suspension and working with those students. Community involvement, parent community involvement, suspension. Oh, I said that already. Sorry. Discrimination, harassment policies. We have that in place. Is that in the classroom? Just is notifying teachers of dangerous pupils. Essentially, teachers have a right to know if there's a student that has violated in section 48900 of the Ed Code. And that's sort of designated by SSA on their essential, their classroom rosters. If they need further information, they can contact the deans to gather any further information on those particular students. Lockdown tactical procedures for responding to criminal incidents. We do conduct lockdowns. We have one time because we make it really scenario based, and we just have to deal with that. There's a scenario out there, and our staff has to deal with it. And thus far, we've been doing a great job at that. And so essentially, we're identifying our concerns and trying to work on maintaining a high level of school safety in compliance with applicable laws. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I am curious, what is making a difference in the suspension and expulsion?
So your dean right next to you, he's a prime example. So essentially, what I appreciate about Mr. Halleck is he confers with me a lot before he chooses to suspend the students. And, we discuss, like, is this something that possibly qualifies for an alternative to suspension? Because, essentially what we're trying to do is change the behavior, right? It's, okay, punishment, yeah, okay, we can get that, right? Accountability, we get that. But the ultimate goal is to change student behavior. And so is suspension the only means of doing that? And if it's not, then we err on the side of, hey, let's try something else if we're gonna try to elicit change in that student. And so a lot of that happens, and Mr. Halleck can,
just like you said, honestly, it's mainly like getting their parents in is like the priority, right? So like, if the only way to get their parents in is to suspend them, like because it's a violent type of thing, or like safety, they're gonna fight someone after school. Sometimes we do it for that reason, but like for the other ones, it's more just getting their parents in and having confidence right away. It's not necessarily using that as the deterrent or the punishment, rather than sending them home and letting them go.
So like a simple solution and a big drop.
So one of the big things that we did, I think I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but we did sort of the ATS or alternatives to suspension, particularly with the marijuana incidents, right? We try to, essentially get the parents in. So on the first offense, if it happens one time, we're not going to suspend. I mean, I think there are a lot of circumstances surrounding why that particular kid is using or has used, tried, or whatever. And so I think it's a matter of delving into each situation, each kid, but ultimately getting the parent in there, as Mr. Halleck said, to have that conversation. When I was looking at the data yesterday, and I'll give you the data in a little bit in terms of that information, but we do not have any repeat offenders, none. Which kind of goes into my conversation about community partners in a little bit, but that tells me that what Mr. Halleck and the other deans are doing with regard to addressing the marijuana seems to be working.
That's not what we noticed. Like the first time was like a couple years ago. That we had a student. There was a young girl that graduated, ended up going to Berkeley. She got caught in 9th grade. She got suspended one time in 9th grade. She never did it again for 3 years. And then you had another student who got caught multiple times. So they're like different kids. So that kid would just have the parent come in, talk to him, which is what happened. Without the suspension, she would have never had a suspension and that one wouldn't have existed. And the one that got caught 2 or 3 times, they're gonna get caught. But like you said earlier, it's only one time. So if they get suspended more than once, it only counts as one. So really just tackling and attacking the one-time guy who tried it out and not, making him feel so, not just dealing with it a different way, because that second time, usually doesn't happen with problem.
Thank you, Mr. So going forward, let me preface this by, when we look at our goals, we have to wait for the year to end to determine whether or not we've met our goals. And so we're always a year behind when we're looking at goals from the previous year. So I just want to preface it by that. So in 24-25, the goal was to create a substance abuse-free environment, an ambitious goal, but an appropriate goal nonetheless. So we wanted to decrease the number of students in possession of a controlled substance by 10%. Before it was decrease students under the influence by 10%, but what we realized is that perhaps in possession is a better metric for us, because if they're under the influence, we're not catching everybody per se, but if they're in possession, there's a likeliness, and I can't say a guarantee, but a likeliness that they might be using it at some point. And so we use that as a better metric for ourselves. That was not met this year. We've met our goal every year in this category, but this year we didn't. Although there was a drop of 5.6% as compared to the previous years. So there were 71 students found to be in possession in 23-24, and then last year there was 67 students. So a 5.6% drop. We're happy that it dropped, but it's obviously not enough. The good thing is that this year we're definitely on pace to meet our goal. So this year, today, we have 28, which is a lot better than what we were last year. And so we're hoping that this is definitely a step in the right direction, and we're going to meet this goal. All right. Can you go next? All right. So this year's goal is going to be the same. Some of the things that we're doing: modified supervision, more frequent bathroom checks. We're in and out of bathrooms all the time. Mr. Bennett has allowed us to increase the presence of the drug detection canine. That dog works, right? The kids, when they see it, they essentially just give it to us. You know what I mean? And so, they really do. They really do. And they're giving us stuff, that essentially the canine would like. But it's very nice. And so, but ultimately it's yielding results, which is going to affect our data. But we think that, having it as a deterrent is very, very helpful. When they know there's a possible dog coming on campus, perhaps they can deter them from bringing it to campus. Continuing to gather data, that's obviously important to us. And continuing to increase the awareness of drug intervention programs on and off campus. We realized that this year, in fact, we just had a meeting yesterday with the PSWs and Cecilia, our community school coordinator, Mr. Abaka, and we want to kind of reconnect with our partners to get a true understanding of what services they offer. Do they do telehealth? Can they come to the school? What are the insurance requirements? Do they have a curriculum? Is there a parent, education component? And so those are things that we're looking into right now. We kind of want to narrow it down so that we have a couple of stable, hopefully long-term agencies that can support us here at the school with that. One of the other things that we're doing is we're adding a drug intervention component to our 9th and 10th grade seminar classes. Essentially, those are classes where students are falling behind. It could be for attendance, it could be for grades. But we feel that those students could definitely benefit from receiving, this kind of intervention and support or knowledge or learning. We do feel that can be beneficial to them. All right, can you go next? All right, so last year's goal, second goal was increase student safety on campus by reducing bullying, harassment, and violence. This is a difficult one to navigate because, as you guys would all imagine, most of bullying goes unreported. In fact, more than 50% of bullying goes unreported, according
stopbullying.gov. And so we started out a couple of years ago, and we had like 3 cases all year. We knew that that wasn't the case, right? But then once we brought in Stop It Solutions, that's that anonymous reporting app, the numbers went up. And you can see the numbers there in 23, 24, we went from 3 to 21 incidents. And so the kids are reporting, and they're reporting all kinds of stuff. In fact, you can report, oh, it's not me, I'm sorry. You can report anything in Stop It Solutions, and it is actually completely anonymous. Legally, they have to keep it anonymous unless the student chooses to disclose to us who they are. But that's helped out a lot. And so that's going to continue to be our goal. We met our goal last year. It went all the way down to a total of 9 incidents. This year, however, we're at 8 incidents. All right, so we're not going to meet our goal this year. Again, this is a difficult one to navigate. You know, essentially, like the students that are reporting, not reporting, you know, some of them, many of them don't report, you know, because they may not think that anything's going to happen. Some of them may not understand what rises to the level of bullying. Some of them may fear retaliation. And so that may sort of influence a student not to report. But ultimately, we're going to continue to promote Stop It Solutions, and hopefully we can get these students to report these incidents so that we can swiftly address them. Can you go next? All right, so this year's goal is the same, reduce it by 5%, although I can tell you, full transparency, we're not going to make that this year. But what we are doing is we do increase the number of student mediations. We try to do mediations if we hear about it before a fight and after a fight. In my experience, mediations work, I would say about 90% of the time. And so continue to do that. Always continue to have security highly visible. They're all over campus. Continue to implement PBIS. Ms. Knudsen and I, and Ms. Ogoy were meeting today, planning our PBIS activity. I'll show you a picture in a little bit. Promote Stop It Solutions, gather data, continue to refer students that need, you know, SSITs, interventions, etc. Can you go to the next one? All right. Next goal is maintain a climate where students and staff feel safe. Decrease the number of fights by 10%. Last year, we did not meet that goal. There was a drop in 7%, a drop of 7%. As you can see there were 87 in 23-24 and 81 in 24-25. Now, mind you, when you see the number 81, that doesn't mean that there were 81 fights. That means that there were 81 entries in the system, which means that, you know, it could be 2 people in a fight. It could have been 3 people in a fight. So I don't want you to think that that's 87 or 81 fights altogether. Having said that, there was a drop of 7%, which we appreciated, but it did not meet our goal. And I'm happy to say that this year we are looking good again. We are at 29 fights, 29 incidents, or reported incidents, which is actually very, very long. Look good this year. All right, can you go to the next one? Maintain a climate where student staff feel safe, decrease the number of fights. What are we doing? Continue to implement PBIS, continue to implement mediations, identify those at-risk students. Again, similar to what I've already used. Can you go to the next one? Let's see. Okay, so this one is decrease the number of parties to period 1 and period 5. That was last year's goal. This year, we switched that to decrease all parties. I will say anecdotally, we're looking good, but there are some things some interesting circumstances. So as you can see there in 23-24, we had 14,259, and that was period 1, by the way. In 24-25, we had 15,156. I mean, that's a huge number. So there was an increase of 5.6%. But one of the things that we did, and you know, I can say that I'm partly responsible for this. I agreed to it. You know, essentially, we felt that there was a loss of instructional time by kids going to get a tardy slip, talking to one of us, and then being sent to class. And so we started to send them straight to class and not stop and get a tardy slip. And once, you know, kids got accustomed to that, they realized that they weren't getting stopped, so there was no like immediate intervention for them. And so that started to cause the tardies to go back up. And so we realized that this year we put that back into effect. And so now they are having to get their tardies. Now, one of the things that I also want to note about our tardies is our new platform, the 360 platform. What it can do now is it can actually speak to areas. So what happens is if a kid comes to our kiosk, which they all should if they're tardy, they get their tardy slip, scan their ID, and what happens is the system within 5 minutes actually sends the information to the teacher's computer, right? And the student comes up as tardy in the teacher's computer. What we found is that prior to doing that, when we were first using the system, when we brought it back, we found out that in the first couple of weeks, there were about 700 discrepancies, right? Which means that there were 700 incidents where tardies were not being viewed, right? And so, by default, our numbers are going to go up just based on that. But the good thing about that, because I was venting to Mr. Bennett about it, and he's like, look, the good thing about this is it's going to give us a true baseline, and it makes sense. So now we have a true baseline because the tardy numbers are going to be accurate now, and so that's going to help us going forward. The other thing that I realized is that last year we had a lot of days. It rained on a lot of days where kids were sent directly to class. This year we didn't have as many of those days, and that's going to have an impact on our tardies as well. So, but nonetheless, I will say anecdotally, it's starting to get better. So we hope that in the long run these tardies are going to come back. All right. Let me see. Okay, so all right. So this year's goals, in 24-25, there were 18,674 reported tardies to all periods. So what we plan on doing is doing the tardy sweeps, utilizing the software, encouraging the teachers to stand at the doors. And I will say that I am out there with my bullhorn. Some of the students can tell you I'm with my bullhorn out there. Thank you, Mr. Powell. I appreciate that. Trying to get kids to class. And I will say that I'm noticing that a lot more kids are running, and we do appreciate that. So there is an effort. We're not there yet by far, but there is an effort. We're working on a plan to try and promote the reach cards a little bit more too. We want teachers to kind of distribute those. Hopefully that's going to help. So we're going to be offering incentives to the teachers to distribute those. So that hopefully will help. And this year we've also broken up the number of students that are tardy by grade level and taken each person and taking up a certain number of students to make contacts, live communication with parents, because we realize that that's probably the most effective. All right.
Carrying over the detention.
Thank you. I forgot to say that. Thank you, Mr. Allen. One of the other things that we implemented this year is a tardy threshold, which means, if you hit a number of 20, which we feel is an exorbitant number, if you hit that number, even though you clear your detentions, you're going to stay on the no-go list for that particular semester. All right, we feel like 20 is way too many. Now, the next semester you start all over, right, and that's fine. But for that semester, you really need to make a better effort to be on time. So that's something that we're doing. Detentions, they need to be cleared, and they roll over, and they can't graduate unless all those detentions are cleared. And so I tell you, in the senior class, there has been a lot of improvement in tardies and attendance. So it's been going well for seniors. All right, thank you. This will be brief because I've shown you guys some of this before. One of the things I wanted to show you, you can go through that. I mean, we talked about our emergency procedures. One more. These are the drills that we do. We have the command team and everything else. Actually, can you go back a little bit, please? A little more. If you can see that, if you can see that one, one of the things that we did, I feel like Mr. Halleck is involved in everything, emergency. Thank you for that, by the way. Thank you for your service, sir. One of the things that we did this year was we had a spinal injury, because I'm always trying to throw scenarios at you.
Not a real one.
Not a real one. No. A spinal injury. All right. And, essentially they had to bring the stretcher out, they had to stabilize the neck, they had to roll him onto the stretcher, and they had to get him to emergency. So that was a new scenario for this year, and they did an amazing job. So I was very proud about that. All right. Can you keep going? There was one on PBIS. I wanted to show a picture of what we're doing with PBIS. Maybe it's not in the update. So essentially, I mentioned PBIS, positive behavior intervention support. One of the things that we did this month was empathy. And you know, it's positive words for people, other students. They created flowers. We had about 100 kids participate at lunch, and we posted the flowers all around the counseling center. And visually it looks nice, and they've held up, they haven't been vandalized. And so those are some of the things that we're trying to do to encourage students to be nice, to do the right thing, get caught doing good, things like that. So we're proud of that as well. All right, and that is it.
Any questions? Thank you. Now, let's be on the agenda for today.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, sir.
On the over harassment stuff, is there a distinction between incidents occurring, whether or not it's reported, and an incident that's reported, or the incident?
Is there this? Well, we don't know the ones that are reported.
Let's say an incident occurred, nobody reported, and you guys saw it, right? You interviewed it.
Yes.
Is that a recorded incident?
Yes, so that'll be documented in every 7 months.
The reason I ask is because it's minutia, but you know, we probably want to encourage more reporting. We want to reduce the number of this, and the way it's here, it says reduce the reports.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You just don't answer.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's not telling on people. You don't want it to happen. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Bennett, you're up.
Yes, thank you. So enrollment and attendance.
Question.
Oh, yes.
Questions for you.
Okay.
LAUSD does not suspend, so there's no way you can compare, but is our suspension rate comparable to Camino and or Granada?
And so last year, our suspension rate was higher than El Camino and Granada. I would never accuse them of not keeping a good track, maintaining good data, but I couldn't comment on that. But what I can tell you is our data last year was at the average in the state, and so that gives you sort of more comparable idea of where we were at. Last year was a little bit of an outlier for us. We came down quite a bit after COVID, and then last year we had a lot of unusual incidents in October in particular. I mean, you can see in October of last year, we had 36 suspensions. There was some gang activity, and we felt like we needed to make a strong statement, and so we did. But I think it was really more of a 1-year blip. You know, it's not usually like that. Obviously, this year we're down lower than we've been in the last couple of years. It's likely you'll see we'll end up in at green on the dashboard based on where it's gone. And so, and we may be lower than El Camino and Granada this year. I'm not sure, but you know, that's I think looking at the state is probably, and I mean those schools also, but looking at the state is probably a good place to look at it in terms of what is sort of the norm overall. And so we look at 3% sort of being average, and we'll be far under 3% this year.
Good.
Good. All right, so enrollment and attendance, as we heard, I think Rose mentioned it, we did get hit pretty hard in attendance rate on February the 6th. But some people may not realize it wasn't just February the 6th, it was also January 30th. That was the stay home day. We had about 860 absences on the 6th, but we had about 650 on January the 30th. And so that was just on those 2 days, we had 1,200 more absences than normal. Yes.
That's not the, people didn't come at all because we took it heading to the sidewalk.
Or is it? Well, there was 2 different days. That's what he's saying. There was one day where the kids were basically told to stay home.
I know, but I also know that on the 6th, some didn't come in at all as well.
Yeah, and so on the 6th, what we found was not very many kids left campus.
most of the kids that chose to participate just stayed home. Okay. And so that's why that number was so high. And so I know, Antonio, you'd asked, like, what was the impact of that on our attendance? And so right now we're at 94.48 for the school year, including those 2 days with really low attendance. If you were to eliminate those 2 days, we'd be at 94.84. Yeah. And so, yeah, I guess I didn't even realize it. So, 0.36%, that's in real dollars, that does add up, but, it's not a killer. We'll try to, there are attendance recovery options. So that'll be the goal for us in attendance recovery, to make up for those 1,200. We have been trending a higher attendance this year than previous years. Our percentage of chronic absenteeism is way down this year compared to last year. Doesn't show up quite the same in overall ADA, but we are at 94.5. Last year at this time, we're about 94.1. And so the combination of, and this is an important thing to remember, the combination of increased enrollment plus even a minor increase in attendance rate equals a lot of money. And so combination of those things to be able to increase enrollment and attendance is, helps us. And so we're continuing to push on that. And obviously our enrollment this year has been higher than it's been at least since I've been here. And you can see where we are. We're still about 65 students more right now, but really we've tracked about 100 students higher than last year for most of the school year. And you can see what the breakdown is. Our virtual academy is now up to 94. And main campus is at 3,095. And I think increasingly we're going to see that as we can increase the enrollment in the BVA, we can bring down enrollment slightly on the main campus to decrease class size. But maintaining overall, we'd like to be somewhere between 3,200 and 3,300 students. And so next year we'll probably try to start at about 3,300 or so. And we know that there's normal attrition through the year. Suspensions we've already addressed. So, but overall in terms of enrollment and attendance, things look good. I want to say, and I know I've mentioned this before, it really takes a village to improve attendance. Mr. Climico, Ms. Aparicio have done a really good job of spreading and distributing responsibility around that. Our GLA teams, this is including the deans, but our coordinators and all of the counselors do outreach for both attendance and targeting. And so I think that has made a difference. And ultimately, we need everybody to contribute to that to really move the needle when it comes to attendance.
It's an extra high number of suspensions, like 14 in September of last year, 1436, 1412 is required. More often than not, is that due to like a specific event, like a big overall, suspended, or is it just a bad one?
It's sometimes these things don't go away. Like, you and me had a problem with each other, something happened, someone took exception now the next day and they do it, or sometimes they're larger groups, but yeah, it's typically that. It's typically
not
like,
just that.
Yeah.
We found we got 10 kids in different.
Yeah, it's not 10 different, a lot of times it's not 10 different incidences, there's like connections to it, right? Like some, best example I can give you was there was a kid doing something he shouldn't be doing, going around taking stuff from kids. So the kids didn't report that, they didn't tell us. They just kind of started to try to take care of it on its own, right? So that kid ended up in a couple of different fights because of something he had done, and we didn't realize it until like later on. So sometimes it's not like always black and white. It just fluctuates.
Weird way that's a little comforting, I guess.
Yeah,
it's a specific event.
There's a small population of kids that can drive those numbers up.
Well, and the reality is it is.
It's the general kid that goes to this school exists, does their thing, and they don't get involved in any of this stuff. But then there's a small group that they'll get involved in over this and that. And sometimes it gets into their friend groups and then it kind of explodes. But it's been better this year.
Okay, thank you for that. The instructional rounds update, we continued this week. We had sessions on Monday and today, facilitated by Aaron Kruger and Stephen Lugo. We did a training on the 18th that I led for the teachers that needed more support in identifying patterns of practice. And so that was the focus. So that way, when we're collecting the evidence, we can translate that evidence into pattern of practice. And so I'll meet with, now that the instructional rounds have taken place, I'll meet with Mr. Lugo and Dr. Further, and we'll talk about what happened and the learnings from that. We'll share it with the entire group, and then we'll do a sort of part B of rounds in the March 23rd, March 24th, with a different group of teachers. Any questions about that? Thoughts? Oh, no, okay, thank you. You can see the problem of practice has adjusted. We've focused on acquiring academic vocabulary because that's what showed up in the data when we looked at English language arts on the Smarter Balance. The only, all the ones that our kids were below standard, near standard or below standard, were related to the use of academic language. And so that's why we went to that, in that direction. Down at the bottom, as you guys know, we're going through charter renewal, and a lot of it is learning, going out to workshops. And so Cindy Wilkins and I went out to CCSA charter workshop downtown last week, and I put the presentation. I think a lot of you have it up there. I'm not going to go through every slide. One of the big ideas that we learned is you're really only going to get denied for one of three reasons: for poor academic performance, which we don't have, for operational negligence, which we don't have, as evidenced by our charter oversight. We've received 4s in operations, and also fiscal issues, or fiscal control, low reserve, et cetera, and we don't have that. We've received 4s, 4 out of 4 in fiscal and operations the last 2 years. And so going into renewal, we're in very good shape. And it makes the point that the law says if you're middle performing, and we are middle performing, even though we're high performing in a lot of ways. The way the law reads is may only deny if, and that's where it may only deny if there are those issues in finance, those issues in operations, or a persistently low performing area of the school. And so we don't have those issues. One of the things we learned that's interesting, LAUSD will review the last 3 years. We were under the impression it was only 2 years. We also learned that because we're submitting petition in August, that we will be required to incorporate the 2026 dashboard. And to me, I think that's probably a good thing, because of the 2026 dashboard suspensions, which was orange on the dashboard, that'll be turned around. And I know how hard our teachers are working, and I feel good that we will continue to increase in math and in ELA, at least stay the same. 75% is a very high bar, but the teachers are working very hard, and so are the kids. So I think we're going to be in good shape in those academic metrics, and suspensions will look better. So that'll end up being better for us. The timeline, the dashboard actually will come out in mid-October. We will submit in mid-August. There will be a public hearing in September or October, and recommendation November 2nd, and then finally the board decision November 17th. There will be a day in that public hearing area where we'll bring some staff and members of the public, parents, maybe students, to go to the board to speak on our behalf. And so we are in the process of preparing for that, but all roads look clear, look good. Any questions?
And that's for a 6-year renewal?
5-year.
Oh, it's 5 years? Well, there was a time when they,
There's less than extended.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at 8 years now
Yeah.
because we had 3 years that have been extended because of COVID.
yeah. Great. All right. Christine. Update on the budget.
Recently, the Department of Finance, they released their February bulletin, based on January financial information. They referenced that the GDP for the US has increased in the third quarter, as well as California, which tends to be in line with the nation. US unemployment remained at their same levels. The highlight really was that in January and year to date, the revenues that the state has collected is more than what the governor has in the budget. So that is a good sign. But that chart below kind of shows it's driven by the big three taxes, which is predominantly the personal income taxes. And so that's a very volatile number, but right now, the revenues have been higher, which is great. Last month, the governor gave his budget proposal for next year, and I included a slide to highlight things from that workshop. And we have things like funding the statutory COLA, using the increased revenue to start rebuilding the state's reserves because they used a lot of their reserves this year, continuing universal school meals. One of his big initiatives was expanding the community schools. Right now, it's a one-time grant. The governor is proposing that the ongoing funding. He also included the $5.6 billion settle-up investment. So then the legislative analyst office, they took the governor's proposal and this month they provided their assessment of the governor's budget, and they gave recommendations that they're giving to the state, to the Senate and the Assembly. Overall, they're saying that the governor's revenues, they're overly optimistic, and we talked about that last time. They do support the governor fully funding COLA and one-time activities, and not they don't support any ongoing increased costs to the state budget, and are recommending revising the estimate. They're also recommending that there's some alternatives to delaying funding schools with the settle-up option. So on a state level, we're waiting for the governor's May budget revision to see kind of where the governor and the legislature and the state budget. Looking at our budget cycle, it can be done a couple of times. So governor gave his proposal, and so we're at the point in our year where we're updating our current year budget. We're looking at our actuals through January and projecting for the remaining 5 months of the school year. The assumptions that are used in this update will of course change over the next few months if there's more information available. But this slide shows the first interim, what was approved back in November, and now the proposed second interim. One more. There we go. So the updates that we're making are proposed an increase in our revenues by $45 million. We're increasing our interest as the interest rates have not come down as fast as they were projected to. Our facilities, rental revenues, as well as our e-rate reimbursement funding that we've been receiving. So that's increasing our revenues by about $500,000, and we're reducing our expenditures by about $700,000, driven by our payroll costs of having vacancies in position, as well as operational efficiency and special education costs. The increase on capital expenditures is looking at what our auditors have recommended us, looking at our fixed assets and how long we're recognizing the costs over those lives, and kind of doing a true up to what's a more realistic one of our assets. Overall, that's a $1.2 million improvement to first interim. Still having projected decrease in our reserves by about 900,000. The revenue assumptions used for second interim are all the same. So we're keeping our enrollment at 88%. The one change is on our unduplicated pupil count back in October. We're having to do the fund bump new application. There's a significant reduction in our free and reduced students. And we had 80% at the time. We were able to finalize it at 82%. So our LCSF is now based on that unduplicated 50%. On expenditures, we still have some certificated year. They're being filled by long-term substitutes. So there is a certificated payroll benefit there. We do have math, science, and positions that are being filled by the long-term subs. We also have a auxiliary period this year compared to the number that we had last year, and so there's some reduction there. Classified, we have positions at times where they're vacant for weeks of months. Those create vacancies and payroll reductions of costs, and so those have been factored in as well. For supplies and services, we are reducing those 500,000. One of the big drivers of those costs, we have less students in non-public school placements this year than we had last year, as well as special ed transportation needs based on our students this year. So the reductions there, our outside consultants costs we brought down as we filled some of our vacancies, temporary agencies. We had another project that needed delayed, and so we have this project management included in our nutrition program. We started utilizing commodities, which we donated foods from the government, and we're reducing our meal costs through charcoal. So we brought down our program costs. Two areas where there's increased costs in the budget related to maintenance and operations. There's some LAUSD projects that were unplanned, as well as the litigation issue, added costs, and then all of the repairs related to the pool were unforeseen. So we bring all of those updates together, it's still an improvement, and what you see on the right. And then when we drop in our actual to date through January, we'll to the second interim projection. So that would be 58% through our year. We've received 56% of our revenues, and spent about 50% of those expenditures. Everything is mostly on track. The area that always a little under paid with supplies and services. There's a lot of big expenses that happen in the spring and at the end of the school year, like my question. We still have spring sports and graduation and one software renewal in spring, as well as purchasing of textbooks and materials. So still feel good about our supplies and services updated budget. And then as part of the budget update, we've got projections for next year, and so I included the assumptions that we're using our enrollment at the 3175 student count, 74% or 94%, right, ADA, and keeping our unduplicated people percent at 82%. And we include 7 columns for our staff. We don't include salary adjustments that haven't been settled. And then we have the updated spurs and percentages that are statutory requirements, and the timing of what we're spending our one-time grants. And so on the multi-year projection, we put all these assumptions together, and you can see currently for the second interim funding net operational loss, partly offset by using so much revenue, and then the net operating loss increasing next year and subsequent years, just based on the cost of personnel and the increased revenue that we currently have projected. It also that, changes the rate, going down. Wanted to point out, one of the violent impacts on our expenditures of the budget and inflation. And it's kind of looking at, what we were spending on our supplies and services back in the 21-22 school year.
Next one.
Next Sunday. And if we were to use the CPI percentage for the last 4 years, we would be projecting closely to 21.2 million in that category, and we're projecting 19.2. So we really are trying to make a aggressive reduction in those areas as best we can, to try to maintain and get to the budget. A reminder on the components of our reserves is that we do have restricted balances on how it can be spent. We do have commitments to things like our pension rate increases and our vacation accruals for our capital employees and capital projects that we want to do and the board through. We also want to have cash on hand, just because our operating costs are about $507 million each month, most of which is related to payroll. So we want to make sure that we have the reserves in place and not have any impact on our operation. Looking at our one-time revenues, their board did approve our grant. I did get the final contract, and we have a meeting with their team next week, so we can hopefully start moving on replacing our equipment that's run on gasoline and propane with more electric and solar powered equipment and maintenance areas. And we are getting very close to our SDCC grant, which would entail the security cameras, security cameras. So we're getting closer to being able to move forward with the next steps there. We did apply for a few other Department of Justice and Homeland Security grants that we have not heard yet if they were approved or not. We also recently just applied for a new round of kitchen infrastructure and school breakfast expansion grants that hopefully we'll be able to see those so we can continue to make improvements to our nutrition program. With the timeline, we expect by May 15th, the governor has to have his new revision, and May 30th, we will have our public hearing for next year's budget, which would then be adopted in June.
Any questions?
Interesting, the schools encourage projections and the bigger projections against the, are those real?
Yeah, those are real. Those are the
It's the same numbers as before, right?
And that's why I asked, because I'm looking at the same.
No, actually,
Hers went up.
hers went down.
Oh, went down.
The first number
Well,
went.
same meaning it's still,
Oh,
or the basis points.
oh, yeah. So first is, their board did approve it, was at 27, 24% rate next year. They reduced it to 26.1% for on-site, so, we're down. Relative when we compare to what it was before.
The main point being, they could go, I guess, but they're real numbers.
Yeah.
They went up. They went even more.
Yeah.
Any questions? Thank you. All right, consent agenda. Approval of credit card for January, the check register, and the board meeting minutes for January. We'll take it by consensus, but I do need a motion in a second. We move. Second. Approve by consensus. All right, action items. Approval of the overnight field trip for Cal OSHA student state competition, March 26th and 28th in Ontario. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All right, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. All right, approval of the comprehensive school safe plan for the 25-26 school year. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Yes, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Approval of the 25-26 second interim budget. A motion to approve. Move. Second. Moving second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Yes.
Carries, opposed. And approval of fiscal year 26 audit contract with Clifton, Larson, and Allen. That's an annual event, right? And it's in the budget.
They are our auditors, we have an auditor, has an annual contract with them. So it will be for this current 25-26 school year. We started in the April timeframe where they do a interim audit, and then when we get to the school year, then they do a final audit. So the contract is listed.
Is there a motion to approve the contract? So moved. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes, so moved.
Thank you all for coming. Very good lesson. You got a forum.
Usually I don't celebrate. This
Dates and times.